Hi, I'm Harper Carroll, AI educator, advisor, and engineer, and I focus on making AI concepts accessible. Today, I'm here with Pham, Vice President of AI at Workday, and we're here to talk about the Agent System of Record, which is a comprehensive platform to manage and optimize AI agents within organizations. So thank you so much for being here, Kathy. I'm excited to talk about all things AI agents, and the Agent System of Record.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I mean, how lucky are we to have Harper, who knows so much about AI ML and at the forefront of teaching people so many concepts that we're just really unfamiliar with, right? We're so lucky. Check out her content. It's amazing.
Thank you. I feel equally as honored to be here. Kathy has a pretty exceptional background in ethical AI, and you've been working on for how many years in ethical
20
AI?
years.
20 years. Yeah. 20 years. And you started with agents about 20 years ago with robotics.
Yeah. So back about 20 years ago, I tested out and learned about AI systems through these little vehicles called Brottenberg vehicles.
Okay.
And an agent is basically, you take the data, you understand the systems around you, and then you take an action. So the action part is what an agent is. Mm-hmm. And there were these really simple robots that perceived the environment around them. They analyzed where to go, and they took an action, and then they learned over time. So then over time, you can see it develop a sense of like fear, if you will. So if it sees a light, it might retreat.
Because it's learned that the light is associated with the negative feedback.
Yeah. So, right. I mean, this is like 20 years ago, and it's really interesting to see now how software has evolved and how our data systems have evolved to even bring agents into a place like Workday that has like 70 million records for people in HR, which is very different than little toy robots. But it's just like it's like fascinating to me to see how it's evolved.
Totally. And so I'm excited to talk about Workday's agent system of record, but I also want to just as you talked a little bit about agents and agentic AI. So agents are really dominating the news cycles right now. We have regular there's all types of AI, as you know, because you've been in AI for a long time. But what people typically think of when they think of AI is they think of like large language models or generative AI, like text generation or image generation models. And so agents are slightly different, right? In that they, as you said, they take actions that kind of have side effects. But I want to talk more about that. Like what specifically, how do agents differ from the typical AI and what we think of, which is generative AI mainly? And why are they dominating these news cycles? Why is it so important right now?
I'll start with how they're different, and then what makes it so that they're dominating news cycles, both in consumer software that we all use in our non-workplaces and also in our enterprise workplaces as well. So AI and machine learning has existed since like the 70s or so, right? And you know this because you teach on it and you think about it. And over the course of the years, you kind of go from rules-based systems where you put in a set of rules and it learns and it has an action. And then the last few years, what we've seen is this explosion of these large language models. And you'll hear terms like non-deterministic. You know, what does that mean? Right? Like these models where you put input in and it does predict analysis, it uses machine learning, and the output you get on the other side is something that's new. So if you've used ChatGPT, which is what most people are familiar with, you can use your natural language, so how you and I are talking now, type it in, and then have it give you an output for, let's say, a really interesting travel plan with 3 kids to some remote part of the world. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's new that uses natural language processing and the capabilities of large language models. And you combine that together, and you can think through all the ways now where you add one more step of maybe it also books your travel for you.
Right.
Or like an enterprise, maybe it doesn't only surface all the amazing candidates in the thousands of candidates that you might have had in your backlog, for example, but it also takes the extra step to notify a hiring manager, right?
Exactly.
That's all possible now than when it wasn't before, where I was tinkering with little robots that were connecting to each other. And that's why I think they're having this moment, because it's a completely different way that we interact with machines.
Yeah.
It's completely turned how we think about how we ask, how we do search on the internet. Completely has changed how we want to interact with our workplace technologies. So I think that's why we're seeing so many people like look at, well, what problems can we solve with this new thing? It's
Right.
exciting, yeah.
It's so exciting. It's like, as opposed to before with just typical large language models, when you input, then you get your output. This is actually taking actions on your behalf and freeing you up to do other things, right? To take those actions that it has a high likelihood of believing it should take, given your input.
Yeah. Well, it's even, we mentioned like as consumer and enterprise, it gets even more interesting when you think about the scale of it. So it's one thing if I, as an individual, let's talk about travel planning, which I brought in like my personal life. I want to find an itinerary to go somewhere with my family in a place I've never been to before. And it's like, here's a list of all the restaurants, here's all these details. It takes an action to book that for me. I can probably have done that on my own, just taking a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm at work and I'm managing hundreds of employees and they have thousands of documents. For it to then now use AI to, let's say, surface information I might not know.
Yeah.
And let's say it finds anomalies, or maybe I want to reward all of them with a great bonus because of certain contributions. For me to scan all those documents and get insights, maybe take the action of, let's say, updating a bonus, that would take such an infinite amount of time. So I think the scaling part of it is what, like, machines are good at that part, right? Yes. So if we can touch more on this later, but like to think through the parts where machines are really good at certain things.
Yes.
And there are things that people are good at that I don't want it to do. Yes. And so we'll lean into the people part, and like we'll find the things where analyzing 10,000 documents is probably not something I can feasibly do, but that can do really well.
Yeah.
So then I can like be a better manager. So
yeah, I really like how Workday has focused on amplifying human potential. And that's your background, right? Is in the ethics of machines and making sure it's supportive for humans to use as opposed to replacing them. And I really like how Workday has been really thoughtful about what problems are primed for AI. You said like massive scale, lots of data, and kind of automated tasks. It's really exciting how you guys think about it. And so I think everyone should be really excited because, I mean, agents are going to really enable so much more automation, free up their time, and also enhance the work that they're doing rather than replace them. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about AI agents. So now let's talk about the agent system of record. Yeah. So tell me about that and why it is such a big deal for all industries and companies that use Workday or are considering any kind of HR solution.
So in short, an agent system of record is the concept of being able to track every agent that you would have in your system in the ways that any chief information officer or any IT office has had to track all the technologies that come into our systems, right? It's incredibly critical. Like it's in our personal lives, it's interesting to know what tools we might have on our systems.
Yeah.
But if you're a company, it's more important than ever to know all the pieces of technologies or tools that you end up using at your organization. And so we had this moment late last year where we thought, we've been really good at building the technology to understand how to manage people and finances. And what that means for me is it's like the using the technology to manage the governance, security, privacy roles that we all have to build. Like you and I will have different access to Workday's role. You don't work at Workday, I do, but even my coworkers, some systems I have access to, they don't have. So how do we take that understanding of technology of how to do that and apply them to machines and not equate them by any means?
Right.
To say, we know how to say that person can access those payroll records. So that machine is going to only have access to that payroll record to update here, but not have access to that other payroll record over here. And we have that muscle over 20 years to do that. And so our epiphany was, we can now also help manage many agents. And it's becoming easier to build agents, which is good for the democratization of technology. It's a little bit harder for the managing of technology. And so we're like, what if we now build this system to help organizations just basically track all the agents that come through their system, register them, understand what roles they're all assigned to, help figure out the governance structure, and just give you the ability to just understand your whole ecosystem of what you have. So I'm really excited about it.
So the Workday agent system of record has many tiers. It has the Workday agents,
Yes.
but then it also allows you to have third-party agents,
Yeah.
and then you can expand on the Workday agents. So can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
How it's this truly a centralized hub for all kinds of agents,
Right.
anything that you come in with, plus the Workday marketplace agents,
Yeah.
where you can choose from the agents that Workday offers and has pre-built for you.
Yeah. One of the powers of being a trusted any system of record is to be able to store records for all the type of, let's say, normal records that you might have.
Yeah.
And be able to store records for different kinds of, let's say, if we're in the human resources world, like people that might come through your system. Maybe it's a visiting vendor. Maybe you're a healthcare organization and COVID just happened and you're going to onboard a bunch of medical personnel to help, and then they might go off and do something else in a different region later. Like, these are all different kinds of records that you have to know how to store.
Mm-hmm.
So I think over 20 years, we've built this muscle on what are all the type of people that you want to track. And we take that same approach now with, well, if you're going to track these new agents that fill some gaps for doing work, what are all the different kinds of agents that we build, but also that a third party might build through any of our partners or any of our customers, and allow them to, no matter where these agents come from, track all of them at once. Like, that was day one of what we realized would be our value add.
It's brilliant. It's the perfect place to have the central hub of agents. Yeah. So how does the agent system of record differentiate itself from other AI governance and management platforms?
Yeah, I think we'll see lots of startups and other organizations come up with ideas for being the place to pull together different agents and different tech systems, as they should, right? Like, if you're a builder, go explore how to build any system, any agent. It's a really incredible time to watch that unfold. I think where we see how we differ is having that muscle over 20 years of building up how to manage really complex types of records. And we're like, no matter what you come at us with any kind of record, we figured out how to build our data model, our record system, to be able to manage all of them, to be able, let's put this in like the human context for now, to be able to onboard them, to be able to figure out how they exist in the system, to be able to offboard them. As you know, these are all muscles that you've developed and you iterate over time. And so when we extend this to digital agents and technology agents, we have teams of people who understand how to build that data model and who understand how to build those record systems. And you don't have to buy a new tool. You can just come in-house, like all 11,000 now of our customers. It's always nice when you don't have to get another third-party tool to pop into your system. Basically, I think I'll add that we want to think of ourselves as, like, if we're like your trusted home and your trusted foundation for your financial records, your people records, sometimes you might need to bring in some other things. But if we're really good at building something, how do we add on like another wing to the house and do it in like a solid foundation, reliable way? And that wing of the house is now an agent system of record. So you just don't have to now manage like an extra house next door or something. You just have it all in this solid place that you're comfortable coming back to. And we see like that responsibility to build that solid foundation home for your records, for like your people and your finances, but then now also for like this crazy new world of agentic AI that folks are trying to figure out.
I want to talk about role-based agents versus task-based agents. So can you tell me about that? Because Workday is really heavily focused on role-based agents right now, which is really exciting because they're much more expansive. So let's talk about that.
I love thinking about role-based agents for enterprise because the role part is everything. Let me back up a little bit to say that if you're familiar with how agents or generative AI exist in the consumer space, so these are tools we use in our personal lives. Lots of companies don't have to think about roles when they train their models. So if you go to something like a chat bot and you ask questions, for the most part, it just trains on all of the internet. And they can do that. When you're an enterprise, we have customers who have we call them tenants, who has basically special entities where we don't share data across with any other customers, right? Like when you buy Workday, you trust that we store your data in a secure place that's private to you. We're not sharing it to your peer or your competitor. And so in order for technology to operate in that space, you have to understand what the role of every agent is. And what role means is what kind of access, what kind of privacy settings you have, how security implemented, and even just the kinds of job that they want to execute in an enterprise setting. That's where you find the most value in enterprise versus consumer versus anywhere else. So I think anyone who builds agents in enterprise likely will have to think about role in some way.
Right. So the task-based agents are really focused on executing certain tasks, but then role-based agents are like task-based, but they have many tasks within them. So they operate almost as a role, like a job position in a company.
And role-based agents can likely, and maybe it probably are often task-based agents as well.
Right,
They
exactly.
just also, it's like a recognition that that task-based agent, let's say, has to go and every month surface insights from your financial records that are like have anomalies. But now you also make sure there is a role setting for that task agent, because those financial records might need to have certain access in certain ways. So they could be the same thing, like that the role-based, task-based, but the role-based is just the task-based agent with the role.
Exactly. It's if you're a task-based, role-based agents contain task-based agents within them. It's like a superset of that.
I'm also honestly excited for the day where if you're a consumer of the technology, you don't have to worry about role-based, task-based, all the types of agents. You just go in and you're like, I have this problem and technology is going to solve it. And AI or agents are kind of part of it somewhere. But at the end of the day, what we care about is the piece of tech solving the problem that we're solving for. So people don't come to Workday these days and they're like, oh, you're a cloud company. And there was a period of time where that was like a thing where companies would walk in and be like, we're a cloud company. And now it's like, we're an AI company, and it's helpful to know. But one day, ultimately, it's like, well, the reason we care about you being a cloud company is that the customer can have security updates without having to do it themselves. Like Workday does it for them. That's why you care about cloud. So I'm excited for the day where folks don't have to bring up the AI part of it. It's just like, oh, you're able to solve that problem we have in like recruiting our financial records so easily with like this awesome user experience. And it was because of AI, but you don't have to like constantly be like, oh, this is like the underlying car parts, right? That made it possible.
To help make it really clear the difference between role and task-based, what is an example of a role-based agent and what kind of tasks would it have?
Yeah. So one example of a role-based agent in enterprise for us is if you think of, let's say, a policy agent. So a policy agent being one that understands the different kinds of policies that you have in your organization, whether you're an engineering manager or you are a legal and compliance person, or you're a product leader, or you're a marketing leader. And we all have policies that we've created for our team. So lowercase p, like policies that we create for our team that we want their teams to follow and understand. There are sometimes capital P policy, which is stuff that might deal with regulations globally around the world that we have to be in compliance with. So some of the task for like a policy agent might be to send frequent updates to our employees on a particular cadence automatically if there are updates, or pull records constantly from what's from different systems externally to understand updates in global policy that we might have to care about. Those are tasks. The role-based part comes in when maybe there's stuff in engineering that is not as relevant to stuff in marketing. And maybe there's stuff in legal and compliance that you might not want another group to see. Maybe there are privacy concerns at types of leaves that people want where they don't want someone else to understand they even are asking about certain kinds of like mental health leave, for example. These are where understanding roles and governance to layer on top of those tasks I just mentioned around updating our policies and pulling external policies, like understanding all the specific roles are super critical.
Right, because you ensure compliance and security through the role of the agent.
Yeah,
which
compliance,
has
security,
tasks.
and privacy. Yeah, all of that.
So talking about security and compliance, given concerns around security and compliance, how does Workday ensure AI agents adhere to enterprise policies and regulations?
We see agents in any AI system similar to how we see the rest of the technology we build. So we have privacy engineering teams, security teams, responsible AI teams led by some of the best leaders I've ever worked with. And as we build agents, as we build AI systems, so the reason they're different than other software systems is oftentimes we're training on large amounts of data, or we might autonomously execute a task, which is different, right, than other tech systems where you build a system, you ship it. Now you have this component of like automation. And we apply the same kind of policies and testing and evaluations that the same level of rigor that we have in the rest of our software suite. So it goes through privacy engineering. We go through our responsible AI team has an incredible process where they evaluate every single product that we have to check for responsibility and ethics and risk that we have across the board. And when because we're enterprise and we have different data sets for customers from around the world, we also, when we train our machine learning models, when we build our agents, we also ensure privacy and as we train our systems as well. So I see them almost as it's different technology, but same foundation of privacy and security and risk management that we have for the rest of the software suite. And I actually want folks who are thinking about this right now to see that as well. It's like, ask questions of any organization that you buy technology from. Make sure that just because it's a new flashy technology doesn't maybe put aside all like the good software practices of security, compliance, testing. These are all very much core to building software, and they continue to be core to building AI and core to building agents.
Right. And so companies that use the Workday agents and the Workday agent system of record can really trust that their systems are safe. They can trust the agents.
For me, the exciting engineering part of enterprise is the tech part of building models and agents is one part of it, but the creative engineering to preserve privacy while shipping the technology is the fun part for me in enterprise. It's a different world where you can kind of just disregard, because let's say you're working with data sets that are open and free, like that's a different world and you can play with technology in a different way. But the fun kind of engineering is a type where you preserve privacy, you work in security constraints, you work in constraints of keeping customer data separate, and you build a system that can bring it all together in a way that preserves all the privacy as well. Like, that's the fun engineering part for me.
I know. I love that you're an engineer at heart. I mean, you are engineering, you're VP of AI, but it's a complex engineering problem. It is.
Yeah. We've seen other companies, there are hardware companies that come up with really creative ways through hardware to preserve privacy. Like, that's just just a really fun part. You're like, how do we find the creative engineering way? And there's usually a path to preserve the privacy while still accessing the data. Like, there's just lots of different ways to do that.
So I'm sure Workday has ways of separating data between the thousands of companies that use Workday. But with these new added agents, there might be some questions around, can we still ensure that our data is safe and separate from everyone else who's using Workday? So how do you ensure that kind of silo of data?
So we continue to keep our customer data in their own tenants, in their own silos. And that's been the case since day one. It's been the case since we've used large language models to build generative AI solutions that are fine-tuned for specific customers, but also keep their data separate. And then when we are training our models, we'll extract some of the data, put them into a separate instance and de-identify it to some extent. And then we surface those models back to our customers. When customers use agents or they bring in their own agents, those continue to be tenanted. So I think that's where the conversation of engineering practices that preserve privacy of customer data on each tenant in their silos, that maintains, like, there is no question about customer data continuing to be in their tenants, in their silos, and not shared across. And then it's on us as engineers to figure out how to surface models and agents that are specific and work for every customer without compromising the sharing of data across. So 100% same practices we've always had of keeping our customer data separate on their own tenants.
So each customer has their own instances of the Workday AI agents.
Yeah,
exactly. So it's not shared across.
Yes, every customer has their own instance, and it's not shared across.
And because you assess risk when you are considering what kinds of AI agents to build, your customers can be confident that when using AI agents with Workday, that there isn't going to be some kind of major error from these AI agents, because I hear that that's a common fear among organizations and companies, that rogue agents that make some kind of catastrophic mistake, you know?
Yeah. I think when you start from a place of no compromise around what systems your technology has access to, that's been the case for us for 20 years, where when customers buy us, they have their own separate instance. When we train our AI models, they still have their separate instance. When we build AI models that now automate systems and take an action, still a separate instance. And that continues to remain true no matter what technology comes across for us. So that our customers we want them to feel safe and secure in the fact that they've handed us their trust and their data and their information. And we're not going to change that.
Right. And the agents that they're using, the tasks have been assessed for risk. So separate from the, data silo issue, just using the agents itself, they can trust that the tasks are not highly risky. So if there is some kind of mistake, it's not going to be catastrophic.
Right. We have a risk assessment framework that we have going from low risk to medium risk to high risk to actually unacceptable risk. And for us, we've put individual employee surveillance in the unacceptable risk bucket. It's not something we want to ever do. So from the low to high risk, it doesn't mean we never do it. It just means that we have different engineering interventions and processes in place for each one of those. Okay. So if it's an agent to come up with summaries for your meeting notes, our interventions for that might be a little bit different than if it's an agent we might now have for policy or recruiting, for example. So we have different ways we manage each kind of agent or each kind of AI technology based on the risk factors.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's great. So what can we expect from Workday and AI agents this year?
So our big announcements will be around creating new agents. So we'll come up, we've already talked externally about the policy agent. Last year, we talked about our recruiter agent. We talked about succession planning. So succession planning for both people who retire, but also employees who now move more often than before. And so how do you think about filling those roles? We have talked about our optimize agent, which is we've learned through our own software development cycle areas that we can use AI to optimize the back-end engineering. So we might have that out to our customers as well. We're doing a ton, and this is one of my favorite communities, with the developer community. So a few years ago, we developed Workday Extend, which is we release our APIs out into the wild. And as you know, developing the infrastructure for AI takes a lot of effort, especially if you're enterprise. If you're playing at home, you can, I've actually watched your videos on how to deploy your own models. But when you're an enterprise, building up your own system is hard. So that you can come to Workday, use our infrastructure and our APIs and extend, if you will, your version of how you do Q&A, for example, in your organization with your own your own documents. So that extend space. And then, of course, the big one is the system of record to manage all the different agents that will come across the table, both from Workday, but also from our partners and your other customers or your other vendors and everyone else.
Yeah, setting up AI to scale is definitely a challenge. So being able to use Workday's infrastructure is a massive benefit.
Yeah, it's back to like where we want to build that solid, or we have the solid house foundation that you trust us in.
Yeah.
So we're going to add some more tools in the house. And if you're like, oh, I really need this extra wing, like I really want to build this other AI agent to do something that Workday doesn't do, we give you those tools in the house. And you don't have to go and try to build it elsewhere, figure out what tools to buy. It's so complicated. It's expensive. You just use the tools we give you. So that's why Workday Extend with AI. And I love that part of work, like that ability to take what we have and use our tools and our APIs to build what you have as well.
Extend it. Yeah, exactly. It's amazing. It's a great name. It's perfect.
Extend the product.
And having these pre-built APIs just makes everything so easy. It's so beautiful. This is like getting me so excited. Workday's really thoughtful. I saw this when I was learning about the agent system of record and about AI agents at Workday, really thoughtful about what problems do you apply AI agents to? Yeah.
And I think that's something everyone should be thoughtful about, especially if you're in a field where your responsibility is people and their financial records, like someone getting their payroll who's living paycheck to paycheck. You don't mess around with that. Because you mess it up once and an agent, let's say you put an agent on it, we don't mess around with that. So that's where we do a risk evaluation too, where we're like, that's a scenario where we could do automation, but let's say the particular failure rate is X.
Yeah.
Then no. And there might be other scenarios where maybe you're generating new copy for a press release or something after like a financial call, and it happens every quarter. So there's like an agent that like always goes and makes press releases for financial calls. I don't know. Sure. Like if there is a failure there, it's probably fine. It might be a bad press day or something, but it's okay. Right.
Yeah.
And so how do we figure out the right, and we're incredibly thoughtful. We take it very seriously.
Yeah.
Because we've always handled people's information, and that's just not a place you play around in.
The risk assessment piece is an important piece of determining where to apply AI agents and AI in general. So roll the clock forward 12 months.
Okay.
You have agent system of record in the hands of CIOs globally who are now managing Workday agents and third-party agents. What's life going to look like for the CIOs?
My dream for CIOs, because I have meetings with them, is that we've built a world where our CIOs are now managing so many disparate systems at the same time. Like we buy a new tool to fit some purpose, and now they're managing another tool. And our CIOs are also working with the employees to give them a really good just workplace experience, right? Like many CIOs I talk to deeply care about like unblocking work with technology, right? Like they're not like they want to like just often really deeply care about their coworkers. So the dream for me is having series of agents that they can track and feel comfortable with, and are like, I know all the pieces of technology that come into my system in the ways that they also track other technology. So they now understand all the agents that are being built across their organization, or anything that anyone has sold them that they've bought, is one part. So just like the peace of mind of knowing they're tracking all the agents that come in. The other piece though is the experience piece, where it's quite tedious to manage all these systems. And so if there are agents that are built that really help make the experience for a business technology team or an IT team or a CIO team, to better manage just their tech system in general. So even outside of agents, so outside of our agent system of record, better ways for them to just manage their systems and also surface up a better user experience for all of their employees. I think that would be an incredible thing for CIOs.
I have loved seeing you light up about this work, this whole conversation. I mean, you have such an extensive background in this, and your passion for the engineering, for the ethics of it, for delivering true value to people in a way that is augmenting their lives and augmenting these companies. I'm so excited about what you're doing at Workday, and I just want to say congratulations for everything you've built so far, and I am so excited to see where this goes and see it take off, because it truly is such a brilliant idea. Like Workday is in the prime position for this agent system of record. It makes so much sense. And I'm just so excited for you and and your team. And
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I also thought of one more thing as you were talking. It's oftentimes we're both engineers, and in our worlds, the who are AI builders tend to be like we've talked about as the machine learning engineering types, especially when we talk about agents that scale and agents that go into all these different domains and verticals like healthcare and retail and supply chain and higher ed, etc. The AI builders are also very much the domain experts, and the technology alone will sit in the little bubble of like a foundation model, which is just like the technology parts. It's like if you have all the car parts, you're like, cool, look at all these car parts. And it takes the people who understand how to put the whole car together and make it drive in the right environment. So that's like the domain experts, the doctors, the nurses, the product manager, like the people, like the historians who understand like that field, that can really get us to systems that, like, especially agentic systems that scale and can automate, but make sure that we deploy them well and solve problems with this, and also deploy them in a really responsible way.
Right.
So for me, like, AI builders is now a much broader umbrella
Right.
of the people who can actually get the AI technology out into the world.
Right. You need both. There's this new concept of the AI engineer, which is just people coming in with their different experiences and then using AI for their own industry or expertise, the doctors, the lawyers, et cetera. You need both.
Yep.
And AI is just the tool, which is like the most important message that I and we are trying to get out there, is that AI is a tool for people to enhance what they are already doing.
AI is a tool, and like, let's take that and find the best way it can enhance our fields and our people. And at the end of the day, it's a tool that can be incredibly, tremendously helpful when we find the right way to use it.
Well, thank you so much, Kathy. This has been such a wonderful conversation. If you're interested in learning more about the agent system of record, check out the link in this post and let us know in the comments what you are most interested in and most excited about. What features do you want? What systems and AI agents should be built? So looking forward to seeing you.